All right, let's go. Hey, Dan here from Guitar from the Heart. Today, I want to show how you can study individual movements on the guitar to help to improve them, the mindset that you need. This is the mindset and the strategy that I basically used to improve my technique through the years. All right, so we're gonna look at an individual movement and how we would go about studying it. And I'm gonna use the pattern that I played in the beginning there, a diatonic pattern, which goes like this. Going back down. Right? And specifically, whenever you're trying to improve upon a particular movement on a guitar, you first want to identify that one particular piece that's giving you a challenge. So like I showed in one of my previous videos, with technique, it's almost like you have different gears that are connecting to one another, and you're trying to figure out which gear, at what point is the technique breaking down? At what point is it the weakest, right? Let's say we're playing this thing. And how do you know where it's breaking down? Well, first of all, you can slow down. And basically, you're gonna get a clue wherever you feel a lot of resistance, like it's not super smooth, it doesn't feel easy. Anything that feels harder than the rest of what you're playing, that's a good indicator that that's probably your weak link, if you will. Also, if you're making mistakes, that's your weak link. All right, so you want to zoom in on those areas first. So let's say, for argument's sake, notice here when we start on the 6th string, we have a wider stretch here, right? Going 2 frets. And let's say everything else here, I'm only doing the 4 finger per 4 fret rule there. So this is giving me a little bit more trouble, say. That little part. Like what I want to do is isolate that one portion there. Forget about the rest because I can play that like butter, right? But just this part. Say. And let's say, for argument's sake, that I've identified, well, I'm messing up on my fretting hand, right? For simplicity for this video, because it could be in your picking hand as well. I want to study one movement. I want to study the movement of my index fingers. Look at my index fingers doing here. It seems like there's a lot going on there. But if you look at just the index finger by itself, what you're gonna notice is it's just playing 2 notes in this string here. In this string of notes, I mean. It's playing this note. These notes are going with other fingers. Then it's moving down to this note. So what you wanna do is just look at that one finger, zoom in on that one thing that's giving you trouble, that one finger, and study closely what that one finger is doing. What I'm noticing as I look at it is that right here, this finger starts here, but then it's just moving down and over one string over 1 fret, right? If I ignore the other notes, it's just going from here, then down and over. So that, you just identified the movement. So if you were to try to now improve the skill of that movement, you isolate it and just practice it over and over again. So like this, you take what I would do is I would leave these other two fingers down that get played on a 6th string, and then I would just practice moving that finger back and forth slowly. And ideally, you want to keep the movements as small as possible, and you want them to be as effortless as possible. Now, when you first press down any note, there's a moment where you have to tense your finger down into that note. But once it's there and there's enough pressure, you don't want to stay pressing with as much tension the whole time. So whenever you're doing any movement, there's a moment of tension and then there's a moment of relaxation. And it's just the tricky thing is to try to find the balance of how much of each you want at any given time. That stretch I have some tension, but it's just because I need to develop more finger independence, which comes with time and practice and just trying to learn how to stay in a stretched position as relaxed as possible. Now the movement, I want to do as small of a movement as possible with the least amount of pressure as possible. And I could go in super slow motion, this one movement. So you can either do where you're holding them down and you just practice moving back and forth, or you could go in super slow motion on the one movement. So like super slow motion, right? I'm gonna do the movement. When you land, you press, there's a little bit of an extra pressure, and then you can kind of ease a little bit, but enough where you're still holding it down that the note's gonna ring out. It's not gonna mute out, right? If you relax too much, it's gonna mute out. You want it to be just enough pressure to let that note ring out, if you will. Super slow motion. And then you can practice going back. Slow motion. So just while you're looking at that one finger, that one movement, let everything else go on autopilot. You can slow it down and either just isolate and do the one movement by itself, or you can do all of the movements, but when you get to the movement in question, you go into super slow motion and you really feel what's happening. The more you do it, you'll find you're able to lessen and lessen the amount of tension, and it'll start to feel better and better, and you could do it with less and less effort, which is the goal. Less effort equals better. But in this particular moment when you're doing the slow motion movement, slow equals fast. The more you practice doing this slow, the easier it's gonna be to keep it smoother when you're going fast, because when you're going slow, you notice everything and you can see what's going wrong, you can correct it. You can see if your finger's going like this in between, the movements are too big. You can notice that when you're going slow and correct whatever is going wrong. Coach your finger, coach the movement into doing what's right. So this is pretty much the approach that I took my whole life, developing my technique, isolating movements, and taking the time to slow them down and to really look at them in super slow motion. Try to find wherever the movements were too large. Try to find wherever the movements had excess tension and smooth it out. Do it slow, do it many, many times. And you'll find that as you go back to playing normal, it starts to integrate with your actual normal playing form. So that's all I got for you today. Incorporate this stuff into your practice routine, and believe me, it'll work wonders. You gotta figure out what's going wrong. You figure that out by going slow. Then you improve it by looking at it in slow motion or by isolating individual movements, which you should also do slow. And then you can take it, do it over and over. It gets baked into your muscle memory. And then you'll find when you go back to playing full speed, some of it will carry over. Some of your old habits will be still present. But more and more you do it, the more it'll smooth out and become part of your normal playing habits. Do that with every movement that you want to study to get better, and you will improve. I promise you. This is the way you can take an individual movement and improve it on the guitar. So for now, take it easy, keep playing your guitar from the heart, and have fun with that. I will see you in the next video.